Happy holidays! Here's an episode about Smash Brothers. Depending on who you ask, Super Smash Bros. Is either the most balanced fighting game possible or a gigantic cluster of colorful nonsense crammed into a party game that you have to force into a balanced form yourself. Either way, what started out as strictly Nintendo fan service has been gradually evolving into a showcase for a broader sense of gaming nostalgia, to an extent that what's probably going to be, by the time this airs, the showpiece for the last major update to the current iteration is Cloud Strife, a character from a game that not only wasn't on a Nintendo console, but whose very existence was the face of a very public breakup between Nintendo and Squaresoft. In other words, I would expect the next Smash Bros. Game, and since we're staring down the barrel of a new Nintendo console sooner than expected, there's almost certainly going to be one sooner than expected, to be even more idiosyncratic and broad about who gets to join the roster than ever. With that in mind, here are 7 characters who should definitely be in the next Smash Bros. Game. Because I said so. Number 7. Master Higgins. The protagonist of Hudson's Adventure Island series has a unique look, a fun set of powers, and weapons that would bring a unique aesthetic to the Smash Bros. Increasingly diverse set of backgrounds. Plus, you get to wail on people with a tomahawk. How cool is that? Also, his appearance would mark the first time an actual person has been in the series. Seriously, did you know that? Yeah, see, Master Higgins is only his American name. In Japan, he's called Takahashi Majin, or Master Takahashi, and Master Takahashi is a real dude, a former Hudson executive and 1980s Japanese competitive gaming celebrity. So when Hudson was tasked with porting the arcade version of Wonder Boy to the Famicom as Adventure Island, they decided to distinguish the title further by replacing the hero with a video game version of Master Takahashi. So how cool would that be, right? Number 6. Bunk. Bunk was supposed to be the TurboGrafx-16's answer to Mario. Instead, he turned out to be a precursor to Bubsy, Aero the Acrobat, Awesome Possum, Gex, Croc, and every other mascot who never quite took. And that's too bad, because the games were good. Colorful, dinosaur-fighting action with a caveman who smashes stuff with his big-ass head. Hell, that alone makes him sound like a fun addition to the series. Never mind the fact that he's a key, legitimate piece of retro gaming history. Number 5. Bomberman. He doesn't speak much, really only has one weapon, and probably isn't as well known as some of the other long-lived gaming heroes already in the series, but Bomberman has appeared in over 70 games since 1983, making him one of the most widely seen and successful characters in gaming history. If that doesn't scream Smash Brothers ready, I don't know what does. Hell, he already even had a crossover game with Wario. He should have gotten in way before now. Number 4. The enemies of Super Mario Bros. 2. I'm a broken record on this, and I don't care. It's time for the rest of the crew from the perennial underappreciated Super Mario Bros. 2 to be fully reintegrated into the modern Nintendo canon. To me, Wart would be the obvious choice, but Mouser would be a fun option as well. Or if you want to stick with guys who've already made the jump, Birdo or a Shy Guy would certainly make worthy fighters. Number 3. Captain N. Alright, look, I get that this is probably impossible because Deke still owns the rights to the original characters from the series and Nintendo doesn't like to spend money on things like that. But seriously, if a superhero who once led a team partially comprised of characters already in the game who gets his powers from weaponized Nintendo peripherals doesn't belong in Smash Bros., who the hell does? Number 2. Lara Croft. Honestly, I'm surprised this didn't happen after Solid Snake was such a big hit in Brawl. She may feel a little on the new side compared to a lot of the veterans in the current roster, but Lara Croft is damn near 20 years old at this point, so there's a whole generation for whom she's just as much of a nostalgia icon as anyone else in the series. On a more practical side, she's got a ton of different weapons and moves, and frankly, the character could use the boost since Crystal Dynamics keeps making these really good games with her, only to have Square Enix seemingly do everything in their power to not sell them to people. And number 1, Hermans Smirch. Okay, Western gamers of a certain age will probably remember that Valiant Comics published a bunch of largely short-lived comic book series based on Nintendo properties like Mario, Zelda, Captain N, even Punch-Out! But the weirdest series was the 4-issue Game Boy run, which was actually a Super Mario Land series wherein the bad guys from the game, and then Mario, to fight them, kept hijacking Game Boys to cross over into the human world, where they were tiny-sized, because Game Boy. But the main character of the series wasn't Mario or one-off bad guy Tatanga. It was a human villain named Hermans Smirch, a sociopathic loser scumbag who lived with his mom, worked in an electronics store, which he stole from, was a jerk to kids, and only liked playing Game Boy because he could make Mario die. So of course, he becomes the guy Tatanga's forces keep forcing to open the gateway and bring them to Earth. Even beyond the fact that Nintendo signed off on any of this, the series is wall-to-wall uncomfortable weirdness, including an issue where Mario teams up with the US Navy, outfitted his Skypop plane with real-world missile arsenal, and just bombed his enemies into submission. So why Herman for Smash Brothers? Well, why not? Basically a prototypical GTA protagonist who can summon tiny Game Boy guys? That'd be a formidable opponent. Or they could just let you play as Team Rocket, like people have been asking since the first game.